right, here is my audience. Okay. I want you to imagine a child whose body seems to be in constant motion. Their legs are bouncing. Their fingers are drumming. They have racing thoughts. A child who bursts out answers before the question is finished, or drifts into a daydream so deep they miss half the lesson. For generations, we labeled these behaviors as just careless, defiance, or a lack of discipline. But what if we've been misunderstanding them all along? What if these moments aren't signs of a child choosing not to behave, but signs of a brain working differently? For decades, society has treated ADHD as a behavior problem, something that could be corrected with just stricter rules, harsher consequences, or more motivation. Yet the behavior persists, not because children won't try or didn't want to do well, but because they can't, simply because their brains work differently. Behavior problems appear when motivation changes, or behavior problems disappear when motivation changes, but neurological conditions don't. I'm addressing the question in fact. Is ADHD a neurological condition rather than a behavior problem? And yes, it is. And there is scientific evidence that supports it. To understand the question, we need to look at what ADHD actually is. So ADHD is short for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. It's a brain condition that makes it hard to focus, control impulses, and sometimes even stay still. It affects millions of children and adults, but contrary to old assumptions, ADHD is not caused by poor parenting, lack of effort, or a child choosing to misbehave. Research shows that ADHD is rooted in neurological differences in how the brain regulates. Brain images studies reveal that individuals with ADHD show differences in the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that is responsible for planning, focus, and self-regulation. Research have also found that the brains of individuals with ADHD often have lower dopamine, and this plays a key role in motivation and attention. So students with ADHD often struggle with working memory and processing speeds. All of this is linked to brain development. These challenges appear across multiple environments, at home, at school, and in social settings. So if ADHD was merely just a behavior problem, we would expect the symptoms to disappear when consequences are applied or when a child is highly motivated. But they don't, because it's a behavioral choice. These differences are not caused by something the parents did, discipline, or the environment. They are all structured and fundamentally different in the brain. ADHD is 70 to 80% hereditary, which is one of the highest rates among mental health conditions, even genetically higher than asthma. If it were simply a behavioral issue, we would not see such strong genetic patterns. You simply can't discipline genetics out of a child. Some people may argue that ADHD is overdiagnosed or that children today are just more distracted and need more discipline. But this viewpoint overlooks decades of scientific evidence. Before we even knew what to call it, you can find ADHD symptoms that have been documented for over 200 years. This was long before smartphones, video games, or modern schooling. What has changed our understanding? We have the tools to study the brain and recognize ADHD for what it truly is, a neurological condition. When people think ADHD is a behavior problem, children get misunderstood. They're blamed for symptoms they can't control. They become labeled as lazy or defiant. They're punished for those differences rather than supported. But when we recognize ADHD as a brain-based condition, we can shift the blame from support. We can shift it from blame to support. We can use and teach strategies that work and create an environment where kids can succeed. So, is ADHD a neurological condition rather than a behavior problem? The evidence says yes. Between the brain imaging, the genetic research, and the educational studies, they all point to the same conclusion. ADHD is rooted in neurological differences, and it drives how individuals regulate their attention and behavior. So it also reminds us that their challenges are not their choices. ADHD is not about willpower. It's about the wiring. So if a child's brain processes attention differently, shouldn't a response be different too?